All right. What's going on, everyone? My name is Deontay, but you can call me Emperor. As you can see, we have a basic gameplay guide for Zeta today, who is actually my third most played character, right behind Lancelot and Narmaya. What I'll be going over is the current loadout I have on her, and then I'll go over her basic gameplay on the practice dummy. Then we'll go over the skills and what I recommend using. Afterwards, I'll go over my recommended sigils along with my build being used on the practice dummy once again. And then finally, I'll use her on a boss, which will be the fire dragon. You all probably know the drill by now. So let's go ahead and get this guy started, shall we? So I'm gonna quickly go through my sigils for you guys. And this is my overmastery on her. Same thing for my other characters that I made a guide on. More than likely won't ever change. Now, let's go ahead and switch out her weapon and take off all the sigils right quick. Now then, for Zeta, her attacking is extremely consistent on this game. So we'll quickly go over her basic attacks and then how her heavy works. So for her light, it's just a few strings of attacks, and then she pretty much kicks off the enemy and goes high into the sky. You'll see in a moment. Like so. But you see, once you actually get into the sky, you'll see that the heavy changes to a combo finisher. So when you use that, she slam backs down. However, instead of just doing the finisher immediately, you can actually do the light attack multiple times while in the sky. So essentially you can stay in the sky for as long as you want. Like so. And then you'll see for a heavy, it turns into Arvis Hammer. And when you use that, you get a status ailment. For Arvis, the status ailment she gives out to the enemy, it becomes extremely important. So what I usually would say for people is that try to keep the uptime or the status ailment as long as you possibly can while in battle. Although I suppose the one downside to her basic combo is that you have to perfectly time it. But aside from that, you can stay in the sky as long as you want, as long as you have to time it down. And there's also a sigil that allows her to have a much bigger window than this. But even without the sigil, it isn't that hard a time. And then another thing, you don't have to immediately use the light attack again while you're in the air. So let's say if the enemy was trying to do a attack while I'm already in the air, all I can do is just dodge, and then I can dive back down. And then same thing, I can just delay it, or dodge and then delay again. Now, going over a heavy attack, there's not a lot to say about it. It's pretty much a counter. So basically this count towards a counter, as you can see right there. However, you can chain this with your light combos, because she technically does immediately kick off the enemy when she does it. So that can be another way you start your combo. Or you could just be like me and just use it whenever a boss is doing a pretty crazy ability and I just want to get into the sky as much as I need to. Now that we have these basics down, let's go ahead and go into her skills right quick, because her skills make her very, very good, and it enhances everything she already does in the game right now. Zeta is one of those characters that literally every skill that she has is viable in game or in early game, but I'll still go over my recommended ones. This skill right here, I would say, is probably the most important skill on this list by far. Pretty much what I said earlier about her Arvis status ailment, this one instantly procs it. And she has 3 charges of this exact same skill, so you can use it up to 3 times. So if you have this on, that means you have your basic combo and then use Arvis Hammer towards the end, or you can just use Infinite Wonders at the start and instantly have the buff up. And I did forget to mention that the Arbor status element pretty much just gives a lot more damage to Zeta, essentially. For Rain of Fury, it's technically a damage skill and it does a fair amount of damage, but it also counts as a debuff because it lowers their attack of the enemy by 20%. Most of the time, I only use it on in-game bosses that I know do a lot of damage, especially depending on what my team is looking like when I play. But sometimes I still use this on bosses that I can easily handle because that extra damage add on just from pressing that simple button does help out a lot. For Spear Arvis, this is also a very good skill to have on her because first off, it's a really fast lunge, and then on top of that, when you actually hit the target, it automatically starts the combo loop while you're in the air. Because doing it normally, you have to attack about 3 times and then you leap off, or you use the heavy that uses the counter and then you kick off. So this one adds an additional way to start your combo loop. Now, Signal Drive, this is a pretty damn good buff since it grants 25% boost to your attack, but this applies to the entire party. So you'll see a lot of the time that people usually tend to have this skill on. As far as I know, most Zeta mains use this skill, especially in endgame, because that attack boost just instantly to the entire party is very helpful. We have Wing Clipper right here. It does a fair amount of damage, of course, but what we really care about is the paralysis. Paralysis on the characters like this that can do it pretty quickly is pretty damn good, especially for endgame. Most of the time, if I'm not finding somebody like Lucilius, I'm having a skill on at all times, because what I usually do is I try to use this as soon as the boss goes into overdrive. That way I have a little bit more time to actually get into fewer attacks before, you know, the boss does his little ability. Now, Vengeful Flames is also very good because it instantly grants cemetery damage to Zeta. Obviously, if you already have the sigil for cemetery damage, then this is more than likely not needed. But in early game, going towards end game, this is very important as well. And now we have Thousand Flames right here. This does a lot of damage, but on top of that, one, it inflicts a burn status element, and then on top of that, it removes a buff from the enemy. I don't use this as much anymore, and now finally we have Realm's Majesty. This is technically the heavy attack that Zeta already has, but instead she inflicts Arvis like immediately. So this is technically another way to inflict Arvis onto your enemy. This is also another ability that I really don't use often, but it is still very good. Literally her entire skill set, you can debate which one is like the most important, to be honest, besides like Infinite Wonders, of course. And then most of the time, this is what my usual loadout would look. So Wing Clipper, Spear of Arvis, Infinite Wonders, and then Signal Drive. However, sometimes I will exchange Signal Drive for Rain of Fury. Depends on the enemy. Now, going back to her sigils, let me go ahead and talk about some of the stuff I absolutely recommend on her. So starting off with her actual sigils, so Clout, Flight, and Warpath. Now, what Warpath is saying in the description when it's talking about inflicting Arvis upon a successful counter, that means quite literally her heavy attack. Yeah, you can kind of see how this is kind of broken on her. Once you actually inflict Arvis, which you already know can be attained by a lot of methods, it now boosts her critical hit rate and then enhanced damage by a good 15%. Now for Crimson's Flight, I wouldn't say it's the most important because I feel like once you already get the timing down, it won't really matter anymore. But I still use this sigil just because. If you struggle with timing that attack loop in the sky, then yeah, go ahead and put this on. And now for Crimson's Clout, this kind of ties in with the Warpath. It increases the damage dealt by Arvis. Status element already gives Zeta a damage increase anyways. This just adds on to that. So yeah, this is also very important. Crimson's Clout and Warpath are very, very good on her. Aside from those though, I will say that Uplift is very good on Zeta. She builds it pretty damn quickly because she's just constantly diving down. For Injury to Insult, I would say this is probably one of the most important ones on here, and that's because what Injury to Insult does is that it allows you to deal more damage based on if the enemy has a status element or not. And well, we already know that Zeta can pretty much keep uptime on that status ailment for pretty much forever if you really think about it. Now, let's go ahead and go back to this practice dummy. Now, most of the time I instantly start the battle with my buff, and then I go to Infinite Wonders, and then I go to Spirit Harvest. Not to mention, her Link attacks allow her to instantly kick back up into this combo loop. And most of the time, I'll just stay in the air until the status element runs out, pretty much. And this is pretty much your combo loop from a basic standpoint. And you can see that my buff is already back. On top of that, you can see that her SBA is already built up. Her gameplay is very, very easy to get used to. Aside from that though, let's go ahead and get into the boss fight. Alright, let's get this started.
Do your work. Come on, our best infinite wonders. One more. Oh yeah. One more. Keep up. Oh yeah. Just try to run away. You pissed me off. Keep up. One more. Oh yeah. One more.
Let me get back down here before he does his overdrive.
How about you? Hold down. Let's not get too close. Show's over. Got him. Just try to run away. So they want more. Now. Show 'em who's boss. Infinite wonder. Keep up. Oh yeah. One more. Oh yeah. Keep up.
Yeah, you can kind of see how this is kind of unfair for a boss like this.
Oh yeah. Keep up. One more. Oh yeah. Like just try to run away. You're dead. On my mark. Let's go, our best. Resolute strike. Got him. Keep up. Over here. You suck. Infinite wonder. Come on, our best. Our best. Got him. Oh yeah. One more. Keep up. Now.
And he's dead that quickly. And I didn't even use most of her kit in this fight, I don't believe. Alright. And that shall be the end of today's video. As you can probably tell, this character is definitely a lot easier than most of the roster. And I think I also forgot to mention that she is one of the best characters to have as an AI on your team. Anyways, I hope you all have a great day or night, depending the time you're seeing this, and I'll catch you all later.